Yes. Okay. So, in our previous session, we started to discuss what mood affective disorders are. And we also saw that whenever you are going to be dealing with any individual who expresses these mood affective disorders, there are going
Yeah,
to be certain signs and symptoms that we look for before we diagnose an individual with mood affective disorder, right? And the primary thing that we looked at was that this particular kind of phenomena is going to be seen in individuals only and only when they have been undergoing certain kind of depression for longer than few weeks. Okay, you cannot say that
yeah,
somebody has depression by simply looking at them for a day or so and then be like, oh,
yeah,
because I thought they were unhappy today, maybe they all actually are unhappy. It doesn't work
yeah,
in those senses. We also
yeah,
saw that when we say mood affective disorders, there could be a extreme situation, okay, where an individual is most likely going to be behaving in very different manner, where let's say
yeah,
for some reason, some period, they're going to be super sad, okay, and then they are going to eventually go through this motion for a few days and then they're going to get better.
yeah,
Okay, so but this cycle will continue again, where after a while they'll get sad again and then they'll get keep on getting better, and then this keeps on happening every now and then. Okay,
okay,
sometimes this can happen even within like a few hours of duration. Here
yeah,
what we say is that this individual is sort of exhibiting a bipolar behavior.
okay,
Okay, because you're not really sure whether they're sad or they're happy, because whenever you're trying to observe them, there seems to be
yeah,
just something not working out for this individual. But it's on the extreme ends of the mood. Okay,
yeah,
the other thing we see is that an individual is sad and continues
mhm,
to remain sad for the time that you keep on observing them. And when you
okay,
see something like this, you say that this individual is exhibiting a unipolar behavior.
okay,
Why? Because they're on the same constant state of emotion for a very long period of time, right?
yeah,
And we also went over and we saw what could be the reasons for an individual to exhibit these kind of mood affective disorders. We also saw the kind of food that could be included in order to elevate a person's mood, or in order to help them not suffer through such mood changes, right? And then we also saw that there is a cognitive reasoning because of which a individual could be suffering from depression, right? The primary reason that we said that they could be suffering from depression was that they have a faulty thought process. Okay,
yeah,
just give me a minute. I'm not sure why is it that my screen is not very clear. I'm just gonna
yeah,
stop my screen sharing and I'm gonna restart it, because if it's gonna be this blurry, you may
yeah,
not be able to read anything that I write.
yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna go back and hopefully it is slightly better now.
it's
It's still the same, right? Just hold on. So just disconnect some of the devices. Like मेरा iPad डिस्कनेक्ट कर दे, मेरा फ़ोन भी डिस्कनेक्ट कर दे, एंड इफ़ यू आर नॉट यूजिंग योर लैपटॉप तो तेरा लैपटॉप भी डिस्कनेक्ट कर दे। मैंने मेरा एंड्रॉयड तो बंद ही रखा है। आई जस्ट वांट द चाइल्ड टू बी एबल टू सी व्हाट आई एम राइटिंग। No, 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 no restarting. This is it. Okay, so it says here that my internet is better than
okay,
before. Okay, let's see, let's see, let's see. Mm, Okay, so now what we are going to look at, okay, is with all of the issues that we know, there are individuals that are going to have faulty thought processes, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
because of these faulty thought processes, they will keep on believing that there is something wrong with them,
Yeah.
because they cannot improve, and because they
Yeah.
cannot improve, their future is going to be bleak forever, and because their
Yeah.
future is anyway going to be bleak, what's the point of cheering up right now? Right,
Yeah.
so this is how they are going to be, and this kind of faulty thought process is something that Beck said is going to be the cognitive theory for depression. Okay, we
Okay.
also see that somebody just learning that I cannot be helped in this particular situation, so the learned helplessness could also
Yeah.
give rise to depression, or it could just make an individual not get out of the situation or look at any optimistic POV for their future, right?
Okay.
Then we also
Yeah.
see that Seligman in 1988 used your Beck's depression inventory, and they tried to figure out if the individuals who suffer from depression are going to have some sort of improvement in their situation if you provide them with cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy is basically a spoken therapy where you sit with your patient and you tell them, okay, look, things are going to get better. Here are a few tools that I'm helping you access, and with these tools you should be able to elevate your situation, or you should be able to at least ease into the future situations, or you may have a better coping strategy for what you're going through. Okay, and
Yeah.
he did this with two groups. He assessed the individuals and he made sure that everybody, using BDI, he assessed individuals and he made sure that people were depressed. He took the individuals who were in a depressive state of mind, and then for some people cognitive behavioral therapy was offered, and it was continued with them for some time, where a several number of sessions were given. And then there was another group with whom it was not reinforced with as much rigor as it was with other group. And so
Yeah.
he figured out that after a continued follow up with these patients and providing them with a little bit of morale boost, it turns out that CBT is much better tool in order to help the individuals. Okay, and this was a longitudinal study, because it went on for about a year, and conclusively we know today that speaking is the best tool that a psychologist can offer any individual,
Yeah.
right? But ultimately not everybody is a social individual, not everybody thrives in therapy, not everybody can afford therapy. Therapy is pretty
Mm-hmm.
costly. plus
Yeah.
plus therapy is also looked at like stigma in most of the countries, okay, if not
Yeah.
in India, even in places like Australia or Russia or New
Yeah.
Zealand as well. People going to therapy is looked down upon, and it's not appreciated, as a adult going to therapy, you are most likely to face a lot of stigma. Now,
Okay.
because of this, obviously, need for us to find out better means to deal with these mood affective disorders was very empirical. And so we came up with a few methods of treatment or methods of management of mood affective disorders. Okay, now
Yeah.
we understand that mood affective disorder is basically where individual is either going to have some sort of disturbance in the mood. Okay, so I'm just gonna say I'm gonna write a little larger in font, so that even if the screen is not very clear, you can still see what is happening. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is going to be disturbance in your mood. Now, this disturbance in mood could range into two categories. Initially, you could just look at an individual not being able to regulate themselves, and therefore they are feeling depressive,
Mhm.
or at times they are feeling depressive, but because they have faulty coping mechanisms, you see them go through the bipolar state of mind, where they really try hard, and they are able to conceal their sadness and function through or just glide through whatever it is that they are experiencing. This is
Yeah.
where you see bipolar behaviors. Now there can be multiple management strategies. Okay, one of the management strategy that we know of is going for something which is called as psychotherapy. Okay, now this is a very simple thing that we have been looking at for quite some time. Psychotherapy can be said to be another name for CBT, right?
Okay.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. You can
Yeah.
also think of cognitive behavioral therapy offered in person to an individual as interpersonal therapy or IPT. Okay,
Okay.
we have noticed that providing cognitive behavioral therapy as a interpersonal therapy has been very very effective in managing mood disorders. Okay, this
Okay.
is this is like established, we know this works. But in cases where this is not working, you can opt to go for medication. For individuals who are not social, cannot afford, do not believe in the concept of therapy, you can provide them with medication. Now, the primary medication available for individuals suffering from depression happens to be antidepressives. Okay, so
Yeah.
antidepressants are effective method, I would say, a effective medical method. But is it the most safest? No, it
Mm.
isn't. But is it
Yeah.
really easily accessible? Yes. Is it commonly prescribed? Yes.
Mm.
But does it give you long term benefits? No. Now, when I say antidepressants, we are basically going to look at two major antidepressants. Okay, the first one is SSRI, and then you
Yeah.
also have something called as SNRI. We'll go into the long forms for each one and I'll explain each one in detail. I'm just going over the methods and the management strategies that are available. Now,
Yeah.
along with antidepressants, see, antidepressants need to be taken at a particular time when you are feeling that, oh, I'm getting into a depressive episode or something. Okay,
Yeah.
you also have something which is called as mood stabilizer. Now, a mood stabilizer has to be consumed at a regular interval and has to be followed with a rigorous routine in order for it to
Mm.
work. Okay,
Mm.
mood stabilizers can contain like substances like lithium. It could also be used as an anticonvulsant, because certain individuals who go through bipolar disorders can also exhibit very different personalities while they are going through this, and their brain may not be able to regulate itself better. And so sometimes providing these individuals with anticonvulsants is very common, and the doctor may choose either
Mm.
or a combination of both in order to help this individual. Okay, now
Yeah.
let's say you are not a believer of therapy and you are neither a believer of medication. Then in that
Mm.
case you may be asked to refer or to work with a life coach. Okay, now a life coach is basically going to use the same strategies that CBT is going to use, but these strategies are going to be more physical. Now, when I say they're going to
Okay.
be more physical, it means that they will provide you with regular exercises, or they will provide you with a diet plan, which is obviously going to
Mm-hmm.
contain all the healthy foods. They are going to
Mm.
advise you to take sufficient sleep. Okay, they would also advise that, oh, you should have better stress management strategies. And now, if you look at this, okay, stress
Yeah.
management strategy, this is essentially the essence of what you do in your therapy. It's just that instead of
Yeah.
providing them with directions to get there, you are giving them direct structure as to how they can make themselves feel better. When you say regular
Yeah.
exercise, you're doing the same thing that psychotherapy does, where you tell an individual to set up a routine for themselves. When you have a
Yeah.
routine, you're not going to move out of what is happening with you, and therefore you provide your brain with less chances to get overstimulated by different senses or by different stimuli
Yeah.
that are available. So you're getting there.
Yeah.
Just instead of just letting the person arrive at the conclusion, you're providing them with that solution. A healthy diet would
Yeah.
again mean that you are making sure that all of the foods that we mentioned earlier are either consumed or have been removed from their diet. When you
Yeah.
say that, okay, let this individual get sufficient sleep, you are telling them whenever you feel that you're slightly stressed, don't stress your brain.
Yeah.
Just go to sleep. Okay,
Yeah.
make a structure for your sleep. Goes to sleep before this
Yeah.
time. Avoid consuming alcohol, which is going to put you in a depressive state of mind.
Hmm.
This is what you call as life coaching, and this would come under your lifestyle changes. Okay, now along with this,
Okay.
what we have seen works the best is providing a social support. Okay, now this is not a very common thing in India, or for that matter in Asia, but social support is a very common thing if you look at US, UK, Australia. Okay, they have different
Yeah.
support groups. The support groups are available for anything that as a society you could go through. If let's say a person
Yeah.
loses their partner, okay, there
Yeah.
is a support group where number of individuals meet together in an anonymous manner, and you discuss what
Hmm.
you've been going through. Okay, so it's a support group
Yeah.
for partner loss. If let's say you are an alcoholic and you are struggling to
Yeah.
manage your alcoholism, there is a AA meeting which is called as Alcoholics Anonymous. You come here
Yeah.
and you need not share any personal details about you, but the struggle that you're
Yeah.
going through. And having somebody go through something similar like you gives you that sense of
Hmm.
belonging. And having a sense of belonging is less ported to make you feel depressive. Okay, just knowing that there
Yeah.
are other people in the same boat as you is somehow comforting.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like there's more people equally
Yeah.
miserable as you, but somehow I
Yeah.
don't know, human brain just seems to like misery loves company. Okay, if I am
Yeah.
crying and there's other people crying, I feel better about, oh, I'm crying, but look at that person's ugly crying, I'm doing better.
Yeah.
And so somehow that
Yeah.
helps you. Okay, like it shouldn't, but it does. And so having these
Yeah.
support groups and strong connections is going to help you do better, because when you share with a group what you're going through, you are more likely to either see how somebody else coped with that particular situation, or by observing you can learn, oh, look, this person's going through the same thing, but this is what they're doing. So even if they don't provide you
Yeah.
the solution, you can arrive at those solutions. So these
Yeah.
are like some strategies that can be used. If you talk
Yeah.
about the very very personal, very very only treatment oriented approaches, then in the
Yeah.
treatment oriented approaches you would look at individualized plans, where you take one person and you give them treatment plan that is going to be completely tailored to their needs. Okay, this is again
Yeah.
what happens in interpersonal therapy, but instead of calling it interpersonal therapy, you are saying you're providing with individualized plans. Or you can do
Yeah.
combination therapy, where you give them psychotherapy and medication. Okay, or
Yeah.
you can provide them with regular monitoring. Out of the three, where you have individual plans, okay, individualized plans, and you have your combination therapy, I'm just going to write this here, combination
Yeah.
therapy, and you have regular monitoring, you would be surprised to know that just having a regular monitoring for the individuals works the best. Okay, and this is something that is being practiced in a lot of regions as of now.
Yeah.
When, let's say you have been in a asylum, or you have been in custody for some time for committing some crime, okay, because your mental state was just not really good, and
Yeah.
once you get released from these facilities, now what most of the regions do is they assign a parole officer. Okay,
Yeah.
this person is going to check up on you every 10 days, or depending on your need, maybe like every other day, or maybe every week. And they're going to check
Yeah.
up on you, where they're going to ask you, okay, have you been eating properly? Have you been
Yeah.
following up with your exercise routine? The same um, daily routine that was established for you while you were a part of the facility has to be
Yeah.
carried out by you now, but there will be regular monitoring provided to you, and just
Yeah.
having the sense that okay, I am responsible, but there's somebody else who will also take the blame for my failure, somehow helps these people stay on track. Also,
Yeah.
not just the fact that somebody else will have to take the blame for my failure, but my failure will also result in an authority individual putting me
Mm.
back into the situation that I wasn't very comfortable with, where I did not
Yeah.
have the personal autonomy to decide my decisions. Is
Yeah.
kind of like a feeling that helps individuals stay on the same track of treatment or on the same track of therapy for a longer period. So regular monitoring is something that really helps individuals do better in their treatment plans. Okay,
Okay.
now when we say all of this sounds really easy to do, but there are
Yeah.
multiple challenges that you may face. Okay, the
Mhm.
primary challenge is that the medications you're providing these individuals. So if I come to my SSRI and SNRI, okay, my SSRI is basically my serotonin selective reuptake inhibitors, okay, or you can say
Yeah.
selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. These medications are going to inhibit how much your body takes up serotonin. Okay, now why are we talking about this? Because you have learned that whenever you have serotonin in excess or in unmanageable quantities, it messes up
Yeah.
with your thought process, right?
Yeah.
If you take SSRI, it inhibits that reuptake of serotonin. So, serotonin remains in your body for a little longer, and this
Okay.
helps you in regulating your mood and regulating your behavior. Now,
Okay.
if you are going to block up the quantity of serotonin that your brain takes up, it makes more serotonin available for your brain. And
Okay.
if there is going to be more serotonin present between your neurons, it is going to help you elevate symptoms of depression by constantly making you feel happy, by
Yeah.
constantly making you feel satiated, by constantly making you feel aroused.
Yeah.
Okay? And so you are going to be less unhappy. The
Yeah.
side effect of this is that most individuals get used to the excess amount of serotonin, and so even a slight amount of sad stimulus ends up making them expressively sad. This
Okay.
is something that happens to a woman's brain when she's pregnant. Okay,
Okay.
your body makes up excess amount of serotonin, and the inhibitors for taking up the serotonin are not present at all. So you
Yeah.
feel like excess of emotions for everything. You're going to be happy, you're going to be like super happy, but if there's
Yeah.
a release of a hormone, it's usually double or triple fold, which means that if
Yeah.
she releases a hormone that makes her feel sad, she's probably going to spiral into depression very quickly. And that is
Yeah.
why a phase post pregnancy or post delivery is called as postpartum depression. It is a
Okay.
very common thing that women go through, and you cannot manage that depression with SSRI, because
Okay.
this medication, okay, mostly the names for these medication would include Prozac or Zoloft or Lexapro, or even Celexa. Okay, these medications are usually not prescribed to lactating women or even pregnant women, because we know that genetics are directly correlated to giving an individual like depression. So the
Yeah.
first side effect is that you are going to be very very on the edge. Either you're going to be
Yeah.
really happy, or it's just not going to work out. Okay,
Yeah.
then you have your SNRI. Now when you look at your SNRI, it works in the similar form. This is also a very very effective drug. Okay, and what happens with your SNRI is they happen to be more effective than SSRI, but The side effects that your SNRIs are going to give you are going to stay on for a longer period. Okay, SNRI is basically not going to just take up your serotonin, but it's also going to take up your norepinephrine. Okay, so
Okay.
the N stands for norepinephrine.
Okay.
And both these hormones, as we have seen early on, these are going to be responsible for making you feel better or bad very quickly. Noradrenaline and serotonin, right? So noradrenaline can also be called as norepinephrine, and these
Okay.
both hormones are going to be really really bad for you if they are going to be present in excess or if they are present in lower quantities. Now once
Okay.
we are through with this part, now we understand that okay, you can basically provide a person with these individualized plans and you can provide them with these treatments. The first
Hmm.
thing is the amount of side effects that a person is going to come through. Okay, so
Yeah.
first challenge in your treatment happens to be the side effects of the medication, but this can still be countered. Okay, let's say if
Okay.
by taking a medication you feel pukish, you give them
Yeah.
pills that make them not puke. If they seem to have
Okay.
acidity, you give them antacids. If they seem to have some sort of dizziness, you give them medication that works on dizziness, right?
Yeah.
But the next part is the relapse prevention, wherein
Okay.
if this medication is not consumed even for a week,
Hmm.
this individual is going to spiral into depression right away. And whatever
Yeah.
you worked for, let's say 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
is going to be completely broken, and the individual is going to be back to square one. And you're going to have to
Okay.
start with all over again. And let's say, even if this individual does continue with their regime, the stigma of having a mental health issue does not outpass any culture. No
Yeah.
matter how progressive your society gets, the stigma for this constantly continues. And so, having to refill that prescription, having to
Hmm.
look at the same treatments over and over, makes an individual want to quit. So,
Yeah.
even if you have, let's say, the social support, the social support may not continue forever. And so, when
Yeah.
this individual loses that continuous support, they are going to relapse much faster. So, going on these medications is very similar to being an alcoholic. Because if you
Yeah.
don't have these treatment plans, if you don't work on those treatment plans regularly, you are not going to be able to come out of this. Okay,
Yeah.
and so we have been working and working and working. There's continued research that goes on, either looking at the underlying causes for mood disorders, and we have been coming up with very innovative treatment approaches to counter the effects of mood affective disorder. We also have
Yeah.
some technology that has been used recently, where you have something called as teletherapy. During pandemic, there were individuals who were offering therapy to people through telephones. Okay,
Yeah.
now this was a very new, you would say, mode of therapy for Asia.
Hmm.
But outside, again, teletherapy has been happening since the communication means went telephonic. So there
Okay.
have been individuals who can call up, and these toll free numbers are called as suicide helpline
Hmm.
or alcoholics helpline. And all that you do is you call up on this particular number, and these numbers are widely available on any search bar, any search tool. And these places are quite accessible, very easily accessible. And the individuals hired here are trained professionals to deal with the issue. So now what you
Okay.
do is you call in onto this number. Okay, we do
Hmm.
have a few numbers in India as well. And you call on to these individual numbers. These are going to be toll free. And what you do is you speak with an individual. Okay,
Yeah.
and you seek guidance, but you don't have to reveal your identity. Okay,
Okay.
so let's say you call up a particular number and you say, hey, hi, I have been feeling like I have symptoms for depression. Okay, if you are
Yeah.
in India, you call up 988. Okay,
Okay.
and you call up this number and you're like, hey, look, I've not been keeping so well, so, and I feel like I need to talk to somebody. So the first
Yeah.
thing that this individual does is they tell you, we really appreciate you taking the first step and calling us. Okay,
Yeah.
this is like the number that anybody all across India can call up, and the service is called as Kiran, like ironically for depressive people. But you call up this place, and they provide you with like a lot of encouragement to speak up about what you're going through. And then depending on the criteria that you mentioned, so they have like a BDI infographic sheet, and they'll be like, okay, so this person takes up all of these marks. So depending on the severity, now they will either consult you and ask you if you would want to continue with this call, and if they could connect you with somebody better, okay, who may
Yeah.
be more qualified to help you, or they could continue to keep talking with you. There was also a movie that recently came up about this. Okay, Ayushman Khurrana was a part of this movie, and he pretended to be a woman who provided teletherapy to individuals. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the movie, but it was something Mera Naam something something,
Yeah.
and it has been like pivotal in providing that, you would say, sense of privacy to individuals who want to
Yeah.
take matters in their hand but don't want to reveal their identity.
Yeah.
And it has been working really well, not as well as we expected it to, but it has been. And then you
Okay.
also have digital mental health tools. Now these digital mental health tools are basically like surveys and treatment plans that can be customized over a mobile phone. So you put in
Yeah.
your symptoms like, I recently tried this app which is called as Traya. Okay, so this is for hair. You get like a treatment plan for your hair, and it asked me a few questions about like what issues I've been facing with my hair, and what I would want this treatment to do for my hair.
Yeah.
Similarly, there are digital mental health tools that work in the similar manner, and they'll ask you, so what have you been feeling for the past 10 days? They will give you a tracker, a mental health tracker, and they'll be like, okay, so depending on the mood that you have filled up here, we feel that if you could make these particular changes, you should feel elevation in your mood. And
Okay.
it may not be as effective as the regular therapy we have, but it seems to be doing okay. Okay,
Yeah.
and the if nothing works, if none of these things are working, then unfortunately we put up a individual on MAOI. This is like the most severe kind of medication that we put somebody on for mood affective disorders. The long for MAOI is monoamine. Okay, I'm going to write this entire thing over here: monoamine oxidase inhibitor.
Okay.
Okay, and what this monoamine oxidase inhibitor does is it allows a individual to overcome depression in the most chemical manner.
Okay.
Okay, this medication is only provided to individuals who have depression and bipolar disorder.
Okay.
This medication is not suggested for any other symptoms that do not correctly fit under depression or bipolar. Now, what
Okay.
MAOIs do is they inhibit the activity of monoamine oxidase. Okay, now I'm going to draw this monoamine oxidase in this manner. Let's say this is the enzyme I have. Okay,
Yeah.
what this enzyme does is it goes to my neurons. Okay, and as soon as this particular enzyme reaches my neurons, what it is going to do is it is going to take my neurotransmitters. So let's say I have these tiny neurotransmitters right here. Okay,
Yeah.
this enzyme goes and binds with my neuron, and it causes the breakdown of my neurotransmitters, which essentially means that these neurotransmitters that may have been responsible for uptake of serotonin,
Hmm.
or they could have been responsible for the uptake of dopamine, or they
Yeah.
could have been responsible for the uptake of not norepinephrine. Okay,
Yeah.
norepinephrine. Either of these chemicals were supposed to make their way through my neuron and help me elevate my mood. But
Yeah.
this monoamine oxidase did not allow that to happen because it broke down my neurotransmitter. And because now my neurotransmitter is broken because it has been digested away, I do not feel the effect of these hormones at all, and I get
Yeah.
depressed. So, if I could come up with a medication that counters this particular enzyme, that takes this enzyme and stops its activity completely, where it renders this particular enzyme completely useless. So, this is my monoamine oxidase, and what I do is I change its active site by blocking it, by adding a competitive inhibitor over here. Right, you've done a little bit of bio, so I'm hoping you're
Yeah.
getting what I'm saying here. Now that,
Slightly.
yeah, so like a competitive inhibitor is basically a inhibitor molecule that is not going to allow this enzyme to bind with any other substrate. The substrate
Okay.
over here in my neuron are the neurotransmitters, right?
Yeah.
So my neurotransmitters can no longer be broken down by this enzyme, and because they can no longer be broken down, I can take complete advantage of the serotonin and the dopamine and the norepinephrine that exists in my body and not feel depressed.
Yeah.
Okay, now when this happens, I will have increase in the neurotransmitters that will help me regulate my mood better. Now, although MAOI has been effective, very, very effective in treating depression, um, where this has been effective in treating depression better than most of the antidepressants that we consume, it is not so effective in bipolar disorder. Even if you add it up with SSRI and SNRI, still MAOI does not seem to do much for your bipolar behavior. Okay, plus there
Yeah.
is another issue with MAOI, which is you need to be on a very specific kind of diet in order to feel the effects of MAOI. So if you are going to be on these foods that need to be consumed, so there's going to be your cheeses and meats and fermented foods that you may be in love with, but because these foods, like we have written a list here, let me just go back to that list. Mm, where all the foods, huh, yeah. Okay, so all the foods that are going to contain tryptophan or your tyramine, so your cheeses, your chicken, your egg white and fish, which
Yeah.
you want to have in order to increase your serotonin amount, are not going to be suggested for this individual. And that means that your sources for making excess serotonin are essentially just stripped off. So you
Yeah.
need to consume excess amount of serotonin through other drugs. So you
Yeah.
see, like for this to work, you need to consume serotonin separately, and that serotonin may essentially not get transmitted because MAOIs may not be as effective for you if you have bipolar. So there's like
Okay.
a lot of contradictions going on here for this particular medication. But but because the benefits overweigh the cause, like the cons we have here, we still suggest people to do this, because being slightly depressive is better than being completely depressed. So
Yeah.
you're like at least a gray area, and where the person's not like completely spiraled into depression. Now
Yeah.
if you are going to eat aged cheese, okay, or if you're going to eat fermented foods, or you are going to eat, let's say, any kind of cured meat. Now when I say cured meat, this excludes the fresh meat that you may want to eat, but
Yeah.
anything like tuna, the canned tuna, or sardines, or
Yeah.
your bombay duck, or anything that has been treated with salt, or any kind of chemical, is a complete no no. If you
Okay.
do consume these kinds of food, they may lead to increase in your blood pressure, and anything
Okay.
that leads to increase in your blood pressure would mean that these drugs get forced through your body at a faster pace than usual, and then these drugs may also start countering all the other neurotransmitters you have. So instead
Yeah.
of only targeting the neurotransmitters for serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, now this
Yeah.
drug can also start breaking down other neurotransmitters. And when that
Okay.
happens, your body may completely break down.
Yeah.
Okay, if this does not happen, then the more, like, not more, the lesser, uh, like, concerning effects could be that you may be constantly dizzy, you
Yeah.
may be constantly drowsy. If you're
Yeah.
not dizzy and drowsy, then you will have constant dry mouth. Okay,
Okay.
if you don't have constant dry mouth, then you may have constipation. And
Okay.
you are lucky if you have either or, because
Yeah.
at times there are people who have all four.
Okay.
So there's no happiness, it's like
Yeah.
moderate depression.
Yeah.
But people would choose this over anything else, because moderate depression will not make you, like, like, unalive
Yeah.
yourself, but
Yeah.
it's better than being unalived. That's what they feel. And so your
Yeah.
doctor will mostly put you on this. Now what would help a lot, okay, I have a child who's done 12th standard IPQ. I don't know if you're aware of what IPQ is. It is a Cambridge program, okay, which is called as International Project Qualifications. And in
Okay.
here, your AS and A level students are allowed to do a research for 2 years, and you can take any question you want, and you can gather as much data as possible, and then you publish this work. Okay,
Okay.
what this child has done is she tried to see for ADHD what
Yeah.
helps the most. Does
Yeah.
just taking the drugs help, or does taking some sort of mental health therapy helps? It turns
Yeah.
out the findings that this child has concluded align very well with what we have been talking about for quite some time now. So she figured out that if an individual who has ADHD, if this individual is aged between 13 to 18,
Yeah.
putting them on just medication is not essential or not helpful. Putting them
Yeah.
on just counseling and therapy is also not useful. But you put a
Yeah.
combination of both, and this individual thrives.
Okay.
Okay, and what kind of therapy you put them on, that therapy is called as REBT. This is
Okay.
something that your teachers essentially practice on you every day without your
Mm.
knowledge. This is called as rational emotive behavioral therapy. Very simple, very easy to work, and very easy to just like provide for anybody, and the other person does not even need to know that you're doing this to them. Okay,
Okay.
it changes a individual's outlook, like this. You would be
Okay.
like seeing effects right away. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll just write what this is: rational emotive behavioral therapy. Okay.
Okay.
Now, let's say I tell you, hey, you know what? You should basically start reading this particular textbook, because I think this textbook will really help you understand the syllabus better as opposed to
Mhm.
whatever textbook you're using right now. The textbook is black in color, it has the brain shown in like such bright, stimulating colors. Why don't you shift
Mhm.
to very neutral looking textbook, and the textbook that gives you more teenage friendly language? And so you would be like, yeah, I mean, that does seem like something that I could most likely start using. So I looked at the activating event over here, which is that you were not able to use this textbook because of some issue, XYZ issue.
Yeah.
I saw what your belief was. You thought I have to use this textbook because my school has provided that textbook to me. There must
Yeah.
be some reason that my school chose. I changed that belief. I tell you, look, yeah, because that was the most widely available textbook in 2022. But since in 2023 the syllabus changed, it makes more sense for you to use the blue textbook. I saw your activating event, I challenge that belief. Now, what I do is I suggest and provide you with that textbook. And
Yeah.
now, what you start to do is you start to use that textbook for reference. So, I see the behavioral consequence in you.
Okay.
I have my ABCs, and you started using the textbook in first conversation. I did REBT. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you do. Then if you say, but why would my school provide me with that textbook? I give you the answer. If you said, yeah, but if this book was so widely available, why did they change that textbook? Why wasn't this textbook made more widely available as well? Then I tell you, because it is new, I provide you with counter arguments that satisfy your questions. And when
Yeah.
you do that, what you cause into an individual is cognitive restructuring. What cognitive restructuring means is you change what they were looking at, or you change their POV for something. And that is it. You can provide an individual with REBT within a session, or you can take your good merry time depending on how much you're charging the person, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, if you said, hey, my 1 minute costs like 10,000 rupees, but I will fix you in like 10 minutes, you can do REBT in 10 minutes. Or
Yeah.
if you're charging them, let's say 15 rupees per minute, you can take your own merry time and go slow with this. But you have to meet the ABCs of REBT. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the most important part that we need to know about REBT is that it focuses on the interpretation of an individual for any event. So if you look at news, your news gives you REBT all the time. Okay, they will tell you, do not vote for this party because this, because this is what they have done. Instead, we feel a party that does these things should be voted for. And then they
Yeah.
start showing you advertisements of the party that they want you to vote for. And then you feel like, oh yeah, I mean, look at this party doing so many things that this person just said they should be doing. And so when come the election, you go and vote for the party that this particular news channel wanted you to.
Yeah.
REBT in 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Okay, you work on the interpretation of any particular event that an individual has. Okay, and you change that interpretation for that individual by having a conversation with them. Instead of changing the event for that individual, you change their
Yeah.
interpretation. You provide
Yeah.
them with the present solution. Okay, something that they can do now, not
Yeah.
something that they could have done.
Yeah.
Right? You say, what happened, why don't you
Yeah.
do this right now? Okay,
Yeah.
you can work with many clients in the same go when you're doing REBT, or you can work with an individual client. It really just depends on how you are having your rapport with the patient. But
Yeah.
this particular kind of therapy does need a collaboration from the therapist and the patient.
Okay.
It cannot work by just the therapist doing things. You need the patient to be able to challenge those negative emotions and negative behaviors and then work on them. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a case study that we are going to go over in the future. Okay, this is about your effects of parenting on children. Okay, and this basically works on how a parent has the internal and the external dialogue with the child, and how
Yeah.
presenting information in different manners can change the behavior of a child within one interaction. Okay, that is also your REBT. The end goal for REBT is for the client to be able to deal with who they are, the way they are, not to
Yeah.
change the person but to change their perspective on things.
Yeah.
If a person feels that right now they struggle with time management, and I also struggle with being able to speak to people, right? These are the issues I'm going through as of now. You change their perception on these two things. You tell them, yeah, you feel you struggle with time management, but look, within a half an hour, whatever work you did, it is quality work. So I would
Yeah.
say, instead of you struggling with time management, you struggle with the output you expect. You need to manage your expectations with your work. Don't be a perfectionist every day.
Yeah.
Why don't you do the least amount of work within the time that is provided to you and perfect it on your own time?
Yeah.
So you tell them, okay, you struggle with time management, but as of now it is because you're trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
Let go of that need to be perfect. You are really amazing at what you do, even if it is not perfect. Let's work
Yeah.
on you managing your expectations. Okay, you cannot speak to people, that's okay. That's okay, you need not speak to everybody, but can you at least communicate your basic needs to somebody? If you
Yeah.
cannot speak it out, why don't you mail it to them? If
Yeah.
you are struggling with confrontation, it's okay, not everybody thrives on confrontation, but if something makes you uncomfortable, please point it out by indirect means. So you're not letting the person feel bad about themselves, but you're providing with them with tools which after a particular while is going to bring a behavioral change into this individual, right?
Yeah.
And you have to continuously keep on challenging their irrational beliefs. If you are going to provide somebody with REBT, you have to promote something. So I'm going to write this over here because this is the end goal. Promote a emotional resilience, enhancing self awareness, and self acceptance. These are the three very important things that you should be striving to achieve with your patient, no matter what age, gender, caste, sex this individual is. Okay, so the first thing is your emotional resilience. Then the second one would be providing them with self awareness and enhancing that self awareness. Enhancing self awareness. And the last thing is self acceptance. Okay, now when you say self acceptance, you cannot let this individual accept the negative coping mechanisms. Okay, you have to change those negative coping mechanisms into better strategies, provide them with those strategies, and tell them it's okay at time to not do your best, but you
Yeah.
did what you could do at that time. Okay,
Yeah.
once you are able to promote all of these, you would see that a individual will now start fostering something which is called as more rational and more adaptive behavior. Okay, rational
Okay.
behavior is where the person says it's okay if I reach this particular place a little later, but I should not risk my life to get there.
Yeah.
It's okay if I reach there 5 minutes late. What's the worst thing that can happen? maybe
Mm.
two people will give me side eye. Can I deal with that? Yes, I can deal with that. So am I going to drive faster? No, I'm not. That's a rational thought process. Instead of saying,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if I get hurt, I must run. I must run through the traffic and get there on time. People who have
Yeah.
depression will have those kinds of behavior patterns. You help them
Yeah.
overcome all of that. Okay. Now we work through all of this. Yes, you would be like, okay, ye ho sakta hai, wo ho sakta hai. Everything is possible. But there will always be an issue, which is this will work only with a few individuals. Okay, and it
Okay.
will not work with individuals who are going through different situations. So again, when you come to the issues and debates for this, you can say that yes, REBT and your CBT and your teletherapy and everything will work for certain individuals because of their biological or because of their environmental or because of their psychological states. And the
Yeah.
same thing may not work for individuals because of their situations.
Yeah.
Something that works for an individual who makes moderate amount of money may not work for somebody who makes excess amount of money. We have
Yeah.
seen that individuals, as they go towards more higher earning ranges of salaries, okay, the social support groups work lesser for them.
Yeah.
Why? Because they always have the risk of being exposed to their subordinates or to their colleagues, because they work on a higher pay scale, or they work at a post that requires them to be more seen. And so
Yeah.
an individual who has that kind of presence, maybe a media presence or maybe a just like a social presence, may not be able to go for a social support therapy group as often as an individual who has a very small media presence or may not even have any amount of media presence. The
Yeah.
way CBT or the way REBT is going to work for them will differ. Okay,
Yeah.
and so there are going to be individual and situational explanations for this, and
Yeah.
you have to argue depending on the question. You will
Okay.
also have a debate about determinism and free will, okay, where a particular site or a particular group of individuals say that because a person is not at the mercy of negative or irrational belief, okay, free
Yeah.
will means that you decide that I do not want to be depressed, I will overcome this and I want to do this. So if a person
Yeah.
has irrational beliefs, you can always challenge those irrational beliefs and let that person out of their depression. But
Yeah.
these individuals will also choose, okay, because they have the free will. Sometimes these individuals themselves choose to have that helplessness.
Yeah.
So at times it is also possible that their learned helplessness may not allow them to take benefit of either of these therapies and continue to struggle. Whereas
Yeah.
the determinism part of this particular debate will say, look, they grew up with parents who never
Yeah.
provided them with these kind of strategies. Like, your parents tell you it's okay if you fall down, we are here if
Yeah.
you fall down, come and tell us if you get hurt. They provide you
Mm.
with a structure. They'll be like, okay, look, it's already 11 p.m., you can't be out this late. And so you know,
Yeah.
okay, somebody who's going to monitor you at all times. But
Yeah.
there are other individuals who argue that over dependency on parents makes children not be able to cope with social situations on their own at all. And there
Yeah.
you're saying, because the parents are overbearing, the child is definitely going to fail. That is determinism. You are saying nothing else will work. It is determined. The child of a criminal will always be a criminal. That is determinism.
Yeah.
But free will would say it's okay if they were born to a criminal, they can choose to not be that way. And so you will have to again look at it like, if a person is born in a depression ridden family, it will mean that they are going to have depression, but they can seek out means to help themselves. So
Yeah.
REBT, all in essence, is a goal oriented therapy, and you need to have free will, and you need to be able to practice that free will to gain this practical approach to psychotherapy and get to break those unhelpful beliefs and behavior, and go to more improved emotional well-being and have better resilience to situations, right?
Yeah.
That's very important for us to understand. And these debates will carry about 2 to 3 marks, so make sure that you have those internal dialogues with yourself, okay? And you decide for yourself which part of the debate you feel more comfortable arguing with. And it is absolutely okay if you want to go with determinism. It is
Yeah.
completely a individual thought. I feel that individuals should have free will, and they should be able to decide whether they want therapy or not. Okay.
Yeah.
But you can argue that no, not everybody can go for therapy. What if they just, because of their parental supervisions, and because of the way they are born, they just cannot have that access. And I don't feel like giving therapy or giving free will is going to help. They're depressed, they're depressed. If